What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm bringing you a tier list on the best new abilities in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, obviously, this video has been done before by other creators, but I'm going to try and put my own little twist on it and go over why I believe these Pokemon are definitely, or these abilities rather, are definitely amazing on not only their respective Pokemon, but in different respective metagames, in Singles, Smogon, Draft League, and in VGC as well. So if you guys are excited for the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video. Help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Make sure to comment your thoughts on the new abilities in Pokemon, as well as which is your favorite one down in the comments below. And subscribe to the channel as well. We're closing in on 4,000 subscribers. Hopefully we can get there by maybe the end of the year. Who knows? It's a long shot, but we'll see if we can do it. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, this is a tier list that I actually made myself. So if you guys want to take a look at it, the link is going to be down in the description. I went through the different abilities. I kind of made them all nice and pretty. However, what I did decide to do as well, because there's so many new abilities and I haven't mastered every single one of them yet, just off of memory, I have the list of them over here as well, so I can go over and get the correct description for it. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be Anger Shell. This is the signature ability of Cloth, and this Pokemon, honestly, it's basically like, if you consider it, it's going to be in a way the move Shell Smash within an ability, which is really cool. So when its stats drop to half or less, the Pokemon gets angry. And its defense is lower, defense and special defense lower by one stage, but it boosts its attack, special attack, and speed stats, which is really useful. Obviously, if you're gonna play like Draft League, Smogon, VGC, sure, it makes sense. If you're playing in a Nuzlocke format, this is not going to be as competitive as you would think it is. It has some utility for sure, but it's a bit harder to pull off. However, for competitive Pokemon, I do think this is going to be more so a B tier ability. It's very hard to pull off, especially on a Pokemon like Cloth, but when it does go off, it's going to be very, very powerful. I just think that it's going to be harder to get the right situation to make it work as well as we would like. Next up is going to be Armor Tail. So basically this is just the equivalent of Queenly Majesty, but on another Pokemon. And it's going to be this time the signature, or one of the signature abilities of Farigiraf. This is a really, really good ability for VGC, especially. The fact that you can be immune to Fake Out and stuff like that, and Sucker Punch is really useful. If eventually Rillaboom is good and comes to the game, I'd be immune to Grassy Glide, which is super valuable. I do think that having the immunity to priority in general is extremely important for you and your team. Beads of Ruin. S. Yeah, I'm going to be very blunt. The abilities that are on the Ruin Pokemon are crazy. Okay, the fact that Beads of Ruin is a 25% drop in your opponent's special, or all other Pokemon's special defense stat, is crazy. In Singles right now, this is the best wall breaker in the format. It is crazy. It's going to be probably at least suspect tested to be banned. In Draft League, it is insanely good in the format. There's just so much you can do with it. Terastallizing on top of it is crazy, but in VGC, it's not allowed right now. However, in VGC, when it is allowed, in Doubles when it is legal, you're going to see a lot of this Pokemon because it's going to really promote a lot of wall breaking, fully hyper offensive build with a lot of specially offensive Pokemon who don't have to worry too much about the intimidates, just mostly the assault that's going to come your way. And Beads of Ruin definitely facilitates a game plan like that. Next up is going to be Commander. So Commander is interesting because it literally only works with Dondozo, and I'm going to put it because of that into the B tier. So obviously if this worked with more than one Pokemon, it would be much higher, but as an ability itself, the fact that you're giving Dondozo a +2 boost to all of its stats, other than HP of course, is insane. Really, really strong, and because of that, I think that at the bare minimum, it deserves a B tier ranking. Overall, is it the best ability in the world if it was for every Pokemon? Yeah, it'd be cracked, okay? But you're basically playing 1-on-2 the entire game. Just note that Commander with a Dondozo could be very good, but there's a lot of ways around that could kind of make it difficult for the Dondozo to do what it wants to. Like Fake Out spamming can be very tough to handle. Obviously, Protect on the right Pokemon is devastating. If you have Protect on 2 Pokemon on your team and you click Protect on the right one while the Dondozo attacks that one, you're in a really good situation because you can chip down that Pokemon. But just be aware that Dondozo is definitely a big threat with Commander on the Tatsugiri on side of the field. Next up is Co-Star. So Co-Star works really well in doubles, only in doubles. Obviously Commander is the same thing, and I'm actually going to put Co-Star into the C tier, and the reason for that is because I'm trying to encapsulate all of the different formats. In Singles, it's useless. Okay, in doubles, it's only good if your partner has a boost, and it's really only going to be useful if it's a boost in like your attack or your speed, because Flamigo is the only Pokemon that gets it. So having access to basically a signature ability but boosting your special attack, which you're not really using, doesn't do much. Obviously, if you can get a +2 boost all across like the Dondozos get, that'd be fantastic. However, that's not going to be the case really, so you want to make sure that you're running the correct set, and because of that, Co-Star will be falling down the tier list a little bit to the C tier. Next up is Kachu. So Kachu essentially is going to be just, well, a second Eating of the Berry. That's all it is. So if you went for, let's say, a citrus berry, you'd get the 25% boost. You would spit up the berry and then eat it back again, which is a little nasty, to be honest, but hey, it is what it is. Having Cut Shoe as an ability could be good in certain situations. There's very few Pokemon that get it. It's like the Paldean Tauros Pokemon and then Faradrap as well. Overall, do I think it's a good ability? I think it has its moments. It'll have its moments in different formats. Is it going to be better than Armor Tail on Faradrap? No. Is it going to be better than Intimidate on Paldean Tauros? No, and that's also one of the reasons why I'm pushing it down into the C tier. Earth Eater. So Earth Eater, I'll be honest, S. As an ability itself, it is S tier. This ability is basically just going to be giving you a ground immunity while getting recovery back without having to have any downside at all, which is awesome. The only thing you have to worry about is something like Mold Breaker. But what's the most famous, popular, consistent, good Mold Breaker Pokemon in the game? Well, it's not in the game. It's Excadrill. Excadrill is not in Scarlet and Violet right now. So because of that, I think that Earth Eater is an S tier ability. Absolutely fantastic, granting a ground immunity to a Pokemon that is a Steel type. Steel is it is the best defensive typing in competitive Pokemon, in Pokemon in general. So having now one fewer weakness that turns into recovery is absolutely amazing on a Pokemon like Orthworm. Next up is Electromorphosis. Okay, this is essentially Charge. Okay, so the move Charge will basically boost up your special defense, and then it'll make it so your electric attacks hit harder. So Electromorphosis won't boost your special defense, but it will make so your next electric attacks hit harder, which could be good because a Pokemon like Bellibolt is really slow. I just think that it's not great. I'd rather have basically any other ability. I'd rather have Volt Absorb or Lightning Rod or anything like that, and because of that, I'm actually going to pop it into the D tier. I really don't think this ability is very good at all. It has some utility with like discharge spamming, I guess, but I don't really think that's going to be a good strategy in VGC, and in singles I think it has no utility at all. So because of that, D tier, the first Pokemon, the first ability going into the D tier. Good as gold. Yeah, let's just pop this all the way up to the S tier where it belongs. I think so far this is the best ability that we've covered so far. This ability essentially makes so that you are immune to any status move. Not statuses, status move. Oh, go for Defog? Not happening. Okay, Defog would lower the what is it called? Oh my god, the accuracy, evasiveness of the Pokemon. Because of that, this Pokemon's immune to it. On top of that, it's immune to Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave and Toxic if it was going to be tricked onto something else or skill swapped onto something else. Any move that would reduce, any status move that would target this Pokemon is immune. You're immune to it. That's really, really valuable. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the best abilities in the entire game. Absolutely. Guard Dog is next. So Guard Dog is a weird ability. If it's intimidated, okay, it boosts your attack stat. Okay, so kind of like a little mini Defiance, but at the same time, any move or item, so like Dragon Tail or like the red card that would force you out doesn't work. Okay, and that has some utility. I think honestly more so in singles than in doubles. It's just a shame that the Pokemon that it's attached to is really not good. I think the ability itself is fine. I'll put it into the C tier. It's not great, obviously. It just gets the job done. In doubles, you're not going to see as much phasing out. In singles, it's a lot more common to see with things like Roar or Dragon Tail or whatever the case might be, and Red Card. But in doubles is really rare. I just think that because of that, it's going to fall into the C tier over here. Hadron Engine, however you want to pronounce it. This is the signature ability of Miraidon, and a lot of you guys have been asking for a Miraidon guide, and I'll be trying to bring that to you before the end of the month for sure, with the Koraidon guide coming as well. But essentially, this is the ability that will get all the Quark Drive Pokemon going, and that's really cool here. Essentially, what it is it sets up the electric terrain, which is really solid. The thing as well is it also boosts your special attack. Yes, it'll boost your special attack as well in the electric terrain. I think it's a 1.3 times boost. I could be wrong on that, 1.3, 1.5. Either way, setting up electric terrain is really good. We know that Pokemon like Tapu Koko are insane because of the reason they can set up the terrain and change terrain in general. And the fact that you can change terrain and now boost up all the future Paradox Pokemon is insane. It's just absolutely crazy. Because of that, I'm going to shove it into the S tier. I think overall, I right now have abilities that are going to shut down status, that are going to be reducing special attack, not by a stat modifier, but an actual just decrease overall without activating at all. I have an immunity and I have terrain setups. All these abilities are cracked in VGC. They're really good in singles. I think the first three are really good in singles. This one here, not as much, but it still is very good in singles nonetheless. Next up is Lingering Aroma. Oh boy. Okay, we went from a really good ability and to a pretty bad one here. Basically, this is just like Mummy. Okay, a Pokemon that makes contact with this Pokemon here will now have the ability Lingering Aroma. There are some Pokemon that really rely heavily on their abilities, okay? If something like a Chen Pao will come in. Chen Pao relies a lot on its ability, not too much, but you get the point. Chen Pao relies a lot on Sword of Ruin, and if it goes for an attack that makes contact, it'll now have Lingering Aroma, which could have its utility, and because of that, I'm going to put it into the D tier, or the C tier, excuse me. Being in C tier, just because there are some Pokemon that really rely on the abilities, and you can get rid of that, is nice, but overall, just on its own, it's not going to be as good, and I think honestly it'll have a bit more utility in singles than you would in doubles, and really only in super low tiers of competitive Pokemon, at least in the Smogon formats. Next up is going to be Mycelium Might. Oh boy, okay, they really dropped the ball with Mycelium Might here. This essentially is just Prankster, where you get to have all of your priority moves do something, except instead of moving first, they move last, and because of that, it's kind of just Mold Breaker, but only for status moves. And that really sucks because Substitute just beats this Pokemon. Any Toedscruel set, you want to go for Spore? Sure, let me click Sub. No matter what happens, I'm outspeeding, so I'm good to go. I don't like that at all, and because of that, I think it's not that good. I do see the value in it though. Okay, I see the value in having your moves always go through because you can actually hit a good as gold Goldengo with the Mycelium Might boosted Spores. Really cool here. I just don't think that it's going to have enough viability to make it really worth the while, because that's going to be sticking into the C tier. Next up is Opportunist. So Opportunist, I think, is actually better than a lot of the abilities we've seen so far. I'm going to put it into the B tier. I think Opportunist is really good in certain situations in VGC if there's going to be opposing Pokemon that are trying to set up. If you're going up against a team that really likes to set up, potential Dondozo Tatsugiri build, then yes, running an Opportunist Espathra would be absolutely cracked. The fact that you get to have a really awesome boost to your stats when you come in is amazing. Or, well, not when you come in, but when something boosts in front of you and you can predict that on the switch, that can be really good. Just make sure you have to bring it at the right time. The reason I can't put it into A tier is because you have to bring it in at the right time. You have to be on the field when the changes are happening. That's really what makes it that good, is if you can get this Pokemon in at the right time, you'll be able to take advantage of Opportunists more than any other Pokemon could. Next up, Orichalcum Pulse. So, just as good as Hadron Engine is, Orichalcum Pulse is also that good because it boosts it against the sun, which is great. The reason why I'm gonna dip this. I'm gonna drop this. I'm putting this at the top of A. And the reason why I'm putting it at the top of A for now, I reserve the right to change the thoughts on this. The reason why I'm putting it at the top of A is because the Miraidon is Dragon Electric. So it boosts its stab options as well. And that's really strong here. But a Pokemon like Miraidon, or Koraidon rather, excuse me, that is going to be a fighting type, doesn't get a stab boost. It's kind of like with Groudon and Kyogre. Kyogre got the boost with its rain on its water type stab. Groudon doesn't get a boost to its ground type attacks with the sun, not until it became a primal Groudon. That's not how it worked. So because of that, I think I'm going to drop it slightly, but it's still insanely good. The fact that you get to set up the sun for all of these photosynthesis Pokemon, which we're going to be talking about shortly, and any Pokemon with synthesis is also, or not synthesis, chlorophyll, excuse me, is really strong. However, for the Koraidon itself, I'm going to say it's going to be A tier, but definitely very close to S tier. I might even bump it up down the line, but for now, we'll stay in the A tier. Photosynthesis, obviously a fantastic ability. I'll put it into the A tier. I love this ability. I think it's really good. Do I think it's going to be top tier? No, because you kind of have to rely to hold an item or have another ability to make it worthwhile, or another move. So if this ability just popped off, no matter what, the first time you come into the field, that'd be awesome. But the fact you have to hold a boost or energy as well means you can't run a Choice Band, a Choice Scarf. You can't run a Life Orb. And obviously you get these boosts as well, but you can't run a Citrus Berry or an Assault Vest or whatever the case might be. And it only works one time while you're on the field, okay? Keep in mind, this is not a consumable item that disappears after you use it, but in a competitive battle where you can only use it one time, that is considered to be consumable, okay? Because of the consumableness, I'll have to clarify that again over and over, and because it relies on an item, and the fact that it relies on another Pokemon setting up the in this case the sun, I have to keep it into the A tier, but it is still an insanely good ability. Purifying Salt. I love this ability. It's another A tier ability for me. The fact that you're immune to getting status, so no sleep, no burn, no paralysis, no poison on a bulky Pokemon like Garganacl is amazing. But on top of that, you get the fact that you're now resisting Ghost. You're taking half damage from Ghost. You're basically a resist, and that's huge. Ghost is arguably one of the best offensive typings in the game. Having a resist to Dark, or Dark resisting it rather, and having Normal being immune to it. That's really strong. So now you have another option to be able to take Ghost type attacks. I love that a lot for Pokemon like Garganacl. Next up is going to be Quark Drive. Same situation as Photosynthesis. Same situation here. The fact that you're able to boost your stats 1.5 if it's your speed, 1.3 if it's anything else is really strong. My concern is you have to have either A, the terrain up, which is again not too difficult to get up with Pokemon like Pincurchin or Miraidon, of course, but you also rely a lot on the item. It's also a consumable item. I'm gonna always put the air quotes around it. And because of that, I have to put it into the A tier. Next up is Rocky Payload. I think Rocky Payload is really good. It's gonna be B tier. It's basically like Steelworker. If you guys remember Delmai, Steelworker gives it like essentially a third stab. Bombardier is basically a dark, flying, and rock type. It has all three, offensively at least. It has the stab, sucker punch, and knockoff. It has the stab flying moves. It has the stab, rock blast, and rock slides. But is it that good of a move, or an ability rather? It's not going to be better than abilities like, I think honestly, I would take any of the 9 abilities that I have in the A and S tier ahead of it, 100%. But it's on the same, I guess, same level as Pokemon in the B tier. That's just what it means to be in the tier. Honestly, it's a fine ability to have. It's not a negative. It's a good ability overall with no real downside. So I think overall it deserves the B tier. Seed Sower. Okay. Any ability that relies on your opponent doing something is not good. Okay. I do not like that. The fact that this Pokemon, the way the ability works is if you are hit by an attack, I think it's a contact move specifically, right? No, if you're hit by an attack, then Grassy Terrain will start. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's not the best ability out there. Why? Because your opponent may never have to attack you, okay? Or they can destroy you, beat down your Arboliva before the Seed Sower, the terrain really starts taking effect and does any work for you, okay? That's one of the reasons why. Because of that, I'm actually gonna put it into the C tier, okay? So right now we got a nice distribution here outside of the D tier, which is a little bit mid, and I'll be honest, looking at this, there's not too many abilities. I think, honestly, I don't think anything else is gonna be in the D tier. Just Electromorphosis, and that's it. Either way. In this case here, Sharpness. Sharpness, I think, is really, really strong. I believe the increase is 1.5 times. So just gonna double check that quickly. Yeah, it's a 50% boost. So that basically means that all of your slicing moves have a boost with a choice band on it. So moves like Aerial Ace or Air Cutter, you have Aqua Cutter, Bitter Blade as well, something like Cowtown Cleave, something like Psycho Cuts, something like Sacred Sword, Secret Sword, Slash, Stone Axe, X's, all these moves here get an extra boost, which is insanely good. I think it's super valuable, especially on Pokemon like Cleavor, which will come to the game soon when Pokemon Home is fully active, and Pokemon like Gallade, especially, also Hisuian Samurott. Because of that, I think I'm going to put the Sharpness, I don't know why I grabbed the opportunities there, Sharpness is going to go into the A tier. I think it's a fantastic move because a lot of the Pokemon that are going to be running it, they already run a lot of these slicing moves, and then they get a huge boost off on it, which is really, really nice. Supreme Overlord. Oh boy. Okay, Supreme Overlord. Essentially, the way this ability works is for every fallen teammate that you have, you get a 10% increase into your attack and special attack. That is really good. However, it is not as good in VGC as it would be in singles, because singles, you have 6 Pokemon on your team. If all 5 of them go down, you have a choice band and a choice specs at the same time. In VGC, if all 3 of your Pokemon go down, it is now a 2-on-1, and you only have a Life Orb boost. Big difference. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I'm not too happy with the way this breaks down. And because of that, I'll be honest, I'm gonna put into the B tier. The top of B tier, part of the reason is also because Defiance is the other ability that this Pokemon has, that Kingambit has. Most of the time, I'm gonna wanna run Defiant, especially in VGC, okay? So there really has to, we have to look at the trade-offs here. And because of that, I'm gonna put it into our B tier, but it's very good, still very strong ability. I would just prefer to have the other ones that I've placed above it. Sword of Ruin, S tier. Fantastic, okay? Beads of Ruin, Sword of Ruin, make a lot of sense. They give you well, everything else, a minus 25% in their defense stat, and that's really good to allow you to snowball. It creates hyper offensive teams in VGC. It is insanely good in singles because you can have a Swords Dance and you basically just win the game, which is insane to think about. So we'll see how it goes. I think that eventually this Pokemon is going to get suspect tested in singles. It'll probably get banned from draft leagues at some point. And I do think that in VGC, we're going to see that this Pokemon is really, really good. It's going to force a lot of maybe mock punches. It's going to force a lot of double targeting. And it's going to force a lot of offensive builds as well. Tablets of Ruin. Okay. As an ability itself, Tablets of Ruin is good. The issue is it affects your partner. Okay. Because of that, I'm going to put it into the A tier. Tablets of Ruin is an attack drop by 25% to everything else on the field other than the Wo-Shen, okay? And that has a lot of utility. 25% drop in attack is really nice. It is honestly basically like a filter boost for everything. Every Pokemon that gets filter, okay, it's a 3/4. They take 3/4 of the damage they would take from super effective attacks. This is basically that, but for every attack in general. That could have a lot of utility. I just think that in general, I would rather have a lot of other abilities, but it is still a very strong ability just on a well below average Pokemon. Thermal Exchange. I think this ability is awesome. The fact that your attack stat is boosted when you're hit by a fire type attack is great. Okay, I love that. The issue is you're still taking the damage. Okay, you're still taking the damage from the fire type attacks. It's not an immunity, but you also can't be burnt. If this was immunity, wow, I'm stuttering. If this was an immunity, slapping into the S tier, 100%. It is not an immunity though. So for that, I'm putting it into the A tier, but I'm going to put it like this, okay? I'm going to try and reorganize these a bit later, but I do believe that in general, these two here are really strong and have potential for S tier, which is obviously going to be great. Singles, doubles, doesn't matter. Thermal Exchange on Excalibur is crazy, and I do believe it's definitely one of the better abilities to have in competitive Pokemon. Then we're going to have Toxic Debris, the signature ability of Glimmora. By the way, a lot of signature abilities in this generation. I like that a lot. So then we have Toxic Debris, like I was saying. In singles, this is going to be, I think, an S tier ability. In singles. In doubles, I think it's going to be a C tier ability. Okay, it could be D tier even. Because of that, I'm going to call it even. I'm going to put it into the B tier, okay? Because VGC is a lot more popular than Smogon is. But because of that, again, the fact that you can get up your hazards, your toxic spikes, is really valuable. If it was Stealth Rocks that got up, that I think would be even better. The reason why is because you have to use Rapid Spin or Mortal Spin or Defog or whatever to get rid of the Stealth Rocks. But in a case like this with Toxic Spikes, you just bring in a Poison type Pokemon. So I'm going to put it over here into the B tier, but I'll put it definitely towards the top of B tier. Vessel of Ruin. This is very similar to the Tablet of Ruin, okay? Basically just the drop, except this time instead of being an attack, it is in special attack. That has a lot of utility. Overall though, it's hindering your team too, okay? You have to be very careful in terms of what you're pairing a Pokemon like Ting Lu with in order to make sure that you're getting the most out of your team and not hindering your team more than you're helping it with the drops and special attack. Next up is going to be Well-Baked Body. So Well-Baked Body allows, funnily enough, Dash Bun to be one of the better Chi-Yu counters, okay? And the reason for that is because it's a fairy type, so it resists dark type attacks, and having Well-Baked Body means you take no damage from fire type attacks. It's a fire type immunity, which is great, and instead of taking damage, its defense stat is boosted by 2 stages. So it's really strong, okay? It's just on such a bad Pokemon, but the ability itself is great. Any ability that grants an immunity, I think, deserves to be towards the top of S tier. The fact that this is granting an immunity to the Pokemon and boosting its stats, I think is really good. I prefer this having Well-Baked Body over Flash Fire, to be honest, okay? And because of that, I'll put it into the S tier, okay? Definitely. Wind Power, okay. Before I continue, the wind abilities are confusing as hell, okay? I don't fully understand them completely, but I do know enough about them to be able to make an informed decision. Essentially, the way it works is for Wind Power, when you are hit by a wind move, okay, which there are a lot of them, I'll read off a quick little list of the wind moves that are in the game. Air Cutter, Blizzard, Fairy Wind, Heat Wave, Hurricane, Icy Wind, Sandstorm, Springtide Storm, which is going to be coming to the game with Enamorous, Tailwind as well. Then it boosts the power of your next electric type attack. If it was permanently boosts the power of the electric type attacks, sure. Tailwind, super popular in VGC. And a lot of the time we're seeing Kilowattrels run Tailwind, not Tailwind, but Wind Power, okay? So if you catch the Kilowattrel running Wind Power, that's great. However, if your Kilowattrel going for Tailwind is not running Volt Absorb, then that Pokemon is going to blow you back with a very powerful electric type attack. I just feel like, in general, it's missing something. If it was a permanent boost to electric type attacks, sure. If what it did was, if you were hit by the Tailwind, it would set up the Tailwind yourself, that is great. I would love that. It's not the case. And because of that, I'm going to put it into the C tier, okay? Wind Rider now. So the way this works is if this Pokemon is attacked, okay, by a wind move, it takes no damage. So the moves I mentioned before takes no damage. So automatically it's an immunity. Great. On top of that, if it's in the Tailwind, it gets an attack boost. We know how good Tailwind is in VGC. The issue is it's not on a good Pokemon right now. Bramblegast is well below average. The ability itself is better than Wind Power. So we'll put it into the B tier. It's just stuck on a bad Pokemon. Like, I wouldn't put Dash Button into an S tier at all, but the fact that its ability is really good is great. So we're going to put it into the S tier. We're going to go just off the basis of the abilities itself and how they play into competitive Pokemon. I think Opportunist was supposed to be over here in B tier. Pretty sure I put it there. It should be in B tier. Yeah. Lastly, Zero to Hero. Palafin is crazy. It is cracked. It is an insane Pokemon. In singles, it is banned from the standard format they play. They send it to Ubers, which means they play with legendary Pokemon. In doubles, it's really good to proc weakness policies, get out of there and bring in another Intimidate Pokemon, and maybe if your opponent tries to lead with Intimidate spam, you don't have to worry about it as much. Really good. And because of that, I'm going to be putting it into the S tier. This is one of the only Pokemon I can look at and say, you know what? Because it's Palafin, it's really good. I don't know what the drop or the increase rather would be from the zero form to the hero form for other Pokemon. But the fact that Palafin gets like a 70-point increase in its stats, and just as attack stats, is ridiculous. And because of that, I'm going to shove it into the S tier. So that's going to be my tier list. Okay, let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe as well. If you guys want to do your own version of this tier list, then make sure to click the link in the description so you can view it. I'll also post it in the first comment, the pinned comment there, and send me a message on Twitter. So take a screenshot of your tier list and send me a message on Twitter, and I'll make sure to like it, repost it, all that stuff. My Twitter link is also in the description as well. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that great stuff. I want to give a big thank you to our YouTube channel members. Their support is incredibly valued and appreciated. The level 1s are going to be Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texas Man. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3 is Sully. Did that off memory. Let's go. If you guys enjoyed the video, again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.